welcome. I will be giving a masterclass this evening or morning, depending where you are, on gut health and immunity, explaining the link between the two and what affects our gut health, how it impacts our immune health, how that impacts our Hashimoto's and the symptoms that we struggle with, and what we can do to improve that. So I'll just give it a minute or two for people to join and then we'll get started. So it's 6 o'clock here now in France, so I think most of you that were interested and joining were in America, I do believe. So I think it's about 11 o'clock there with Central Standard Time. So anyway, let's get started with the masterclass and kind of see how we go, see who joins. If you've got any questions throughout the masterclass, drop them in the comments or drop them in at the end and I will do my best to answer them for you. So what I'll be addressing, as I mentioned, is the link between gut health and immune health, what affects our gut health and our immune health and how it affects it. And I'll also then be telling you basically what you can do to improve your gut health and your immune health and in turn your Hashimoto symptoms. So I've got a few notes so that I don't miss anything. So if we get started with the link between gut health and immune health, 70 to 80% of our immune system is located in and around our intestinal tract, and we have more than 500 species of bacteria located in our gut alone. We live in harmony with these bacteria for the most part. They're extremely beneficial for our health. The problem occurs when this becomes unbalanced, when the bacteria are able to create a dominance of certain strains, or if they're able to proliferate in an area that they shouldn't be. This can lead to something called dysbiosis, which is basically just an imbalance of the strains of gut bacteria that you find in your gut. So the more diverse these strains of bacteria are, the healthier our gut is, and in turn the healthier our immune system is. Beneficial bacteria have a huge impact on our immune system. They're able to stimulate it, they can prime it ready for responses, they can communicate directly with our immune system, they can educate the immune system for future responses, and they can also help trigger appropriate responses at the appropriate time so that it's not going crazy when it shouldn't be, which is what happens with obviously autoimmune diseases. So if we have a look at some of the things that beneficial bacteria can do, they're able to provide certain essential nutrients for us, such as vitamin K and a lot of the B vitamins, which are quite important in energy production. So without the beneficial bacteria, these nutrients can often be depleted, and some of those functions such as energy production can be implicated and can struggle to function effectively. Beneficial bacteria can regulate the speed of our digestion. So this decreases the toxicity as the more time something spends, the toxins and the foods that need to be kind of eliminated, the more time they spend it in our digestive tract, the more toxic they can become. And this can put quite a big strain on our liver, as it quite often ends up having to process it more than once. If it's sat around kind of waiting, it doesn't like the toxins just sat in our gut waiting. So we need that speed of our digestion to be kind of optimal. We don't want it too fast, because then we're not absorbing our nutrients and we're not getting kind of everything that we need for our body to function. We don't want it too slow, otherwise we've got toxin buildup. So beneficial bacteria can promote gut wall integrity. So they're really important for increasing the health of our mucous membrane. And the mucous membrane within our digestive tract protects our gut wall. It is also where the majority of the immune system is located, in this mucous membrane. So if this is depleted or in poor health, then our immune system obviously is depleted and doesn't kind of respond as it should do. So the beneficial bacteria can also promote tight junction formation between gut cell walls. So this can prevent leaky gut, so it can stop things getting through that shouldn't be getting through into our bloodstream. So we don't want food that shouldn't be getting through into our bloodstream getting through. We don't want toxins and bacteria and pathogens getting through that shouldn't be getting through. And this is what the tight junctions do. They stop that from getting through our gut wall. If that's not healthy, it leaves big gaps for things to get through. The beneficial bacteria can also crowd out the pathogenic bacteria, so the bad bacteria, the kind of harmful bacteria that we kind of don't want getting a hold. It can stop those kind of growing. The beneficial bacteria are also able to produce antimicrobials, so it can kill off pathogens. They can bind to viruses and help expel them more quickly. They're able to upregulate the immune system when it's needed. The beneficial bacteria are able to decrease inflammation in the gut, and this is a really important factor, as inflammation is a driving force behind a lot of autoimmune conditions, and Hashimoto's is no different. So whatever we can do to lower inflammation is beneficial. The beneficial bacteria are also able to control our blood sugar levels. They can actually improve our blood sugar control. They're able to reduce oxidative stress, so reduce damage that is caused from everyday kind of reactions that occur in our body. The intestines and the brain are directly connected by the vagus nerve. This has been shown by research in the past few years. It's a huge area of research at the moment, and there's loads going on. It's really interesting what's coming out. One of the latest things to kind of come out of this is that the beneficial bacteria in our gut are actually able to directly communicate with our brain through biochemical pathways. So our gut health can directly impact kind of our brain health and basically the functions that happen within our body and what our brain is telling our body what should be happening and when it should be happening. So if we look at what else the beneficial bacteria can do, it can produce serotonin and dopamine. Now, another area of research has shown that the majority of this seems to be produced in our gut, whereas we once thought this was produced in our brain, like completely. It's now shown not to be the case. And serotonin and dopamine have a massive effect on brain health and mental health. So if you're struggling with things like brain fog and you've got poor gut health, this can be one of the driving forces behind your brain fog. So in summary, poor gut health can lead to a dysfunction of the intestinal immune system, which can cause leaky gut, and it can cause an abnormal immune response, which if left unchecked, it can lead to things such as autoimmune diseases, such as Hashimoto's, chronic inflammatory diseases such as diabetes and heart disease. It can also lead to diseases such as cancer, and there's a lot of chronic diseases kind of these days that are being linked back to the state of our gut health, basically. So now that we've looked at the link between the two, and I've hopefully explained it a little bit for you, if we have a look at what exactly affects our gut health and how it affects it, the first area I would like to start with is diet. It's quite a big area. So one of the first things that I recommend with my clients is that they look at their sugar, their sweeteners, their white refined carbohydrates, their processed foods, how much they're consuming of these. These are all massive causes of inflammation. They feed the bad bacteria directly, which decreases the levels of our good bacteria in our gut. This can increase glucose intolerance, so can lead to things such as diabetes. And ultimately, it can basically damage the gut wall and allow things to get through our gut wall that shouldn't be getting through into it, and then this leads to our immune system responding to things that shouldn't be there, just making it work harder than it should, basically. Another area is quite common is lack of fibre in most people's diets. Fibre slows our digestion down. A lack of fibre slows our digestion down. It decreases the diversity of the gut bacteria in our gut, and it can lead to bacterial dominance, so certain strains getting like dominant over the others, growing much more quickly, kind of taking over entire areas, and we don't want this. We want our bacteria to kind of be balanced. So another area to look at is healthy fats. So a lack of healthy fats can cause quite a lot of issues actually in our body. All the cells in our body need healthy fats to have a healthy cell membrane. Without this healthy cell membrane, our cells can't communicate effectively with each other. If they can't communicate, our immune system can't respond appropriately when it's needed to. So the fats that we are kind of really, really important to our overall health, like whole system health. Another area that is often an issue for gut health is lack of fluids, and mainly water. Most of us don't drink sufficient water at all. This can affect the mucosal layer in the gut wall. And as I mentioned before, most of our immune system is located here in the mucosal layer. So a lack of fluid can actually slow the digestive process down. It can cause toxins to build up within the digestive tract because it's slowed down, and can again lead to dysbiosis, so an unbalanced kind of gut bacteria. So the last area in the dietary area that I wanted to look at is alcohol. Now, too much alcohol can actually directly decrease our beneficial bacteria. It can cause high levels of inflammation within our digestive tract, which can lead to dysbiosis and ultimately leaky gut and an abnormal immune response. So that was diet. If we have a look at sleep quickly. So poor sleep can increase inflammation in the gut, and it can decrease the body's ability to detox. Most of our detox happens, especially with our brain, when we're sleeping. And the things that they're detoxing are basically byproducts from reactions that have taken place in our body throughout the day in order for us to function. So in a lot of cases, they're not harmful things in of themselves, but if they build up, they can become harmful. And this can all lead to a dysbiosis again in the gut. Now, conversely, poor gut health can impact our sleep patterns. So if our gut health is poor, then it is likely to kind of make our sleep poor. So it's a vicious cycle. So trying to get a balance with this is really, really important. Stress is a major area. I would say probably one of the biggest areas. Our enteric nervous system, which deals with our digestive tract, has two branches. It has the sympathetic and it has the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system deals with our stress response, so our fight or flight response. And our parasympathetic deals with rest, repair and digest. We can't be on both systems at the same time. And if we're constantly stressed, even if that's a kind of low-grade, underlying kind of stress, we will kind of create a sympathetic dominance, which means our parasympathetic cannot function. And this is what controls our digestion. So basically it can shut down our digestive kind of processes. It can lead to poor absorption because we don't have the necessary enzymes, the necessary blood flow, the necessary stomach acid in order for our digestive system to function and extract the nutrients we need. So nutrient deficiencies are common in this case, and basically this impacts our body's functions as these nutrients are needed for reactions to take place on a daily basis. So for energy production, we need a lot of nutrients, and if we're not getting those because our digestive system isn't processing our food because we're stressed, then those processes are going to struggle. You're going to experience fatigue, you're going to experience brain fog, you're going to have pain because you've got inflammation. So stress itself can directly increase your inflammation levels throughout your body, not just in your gut, but it does have a big impact in your gut. It changes your gut flora, so your bacteria. It changes the levels of the diversity, the kind of strains that are dominant and kind of where they're kind of growing. It decreases the blood flow to the digestive system. So without that, you can't carry the nutrients kind of to the rest of your body, even if you are able to extract them. And you don't have the oxygen to kind of form a lot of these reactions in the first place if you don't have the blood flow. which all can basically lead to a poorly functioning immune system. So let's have a look at exercise. Lack of exercise can reduce our beneficial bacteria, which decreases the diversity of bacteria within our gut, leads to dysbiosis, which leads to leaky gut and leads to poor immunity. Excuse me a second. Okay. Conversely, too much exercise is actually a physical stressor, and our body can't differentiate between physical stress and psychological stress. To our body, stress is just stress. It doesn't matter what the cause is. So if you're exercising quite aggressively, this can cause quite an impact on your body, on kind of the demands you're placing on it. It can increase your stress levels. And you get the same result as you do if you have insufficient exercise. So you have poor gut health, you have poor immunity. So if we look at drugs very quickly, and there are a lot of drugs that do affect our digestive tract, but there are a few that in particular that I want to kind of concentrate on. And the first of those is antibiotics. So they wipe out all the bacteria in our gut. They don't differentiate between good and bad. They kind of just wipe the lot. When they start to regrow, you can quite often get a dominance starting to happen, and those bad bacteria often tend to grow quicker than the good bacteria. Another drug that we should be cautious about is NSAIDs, or quite often known as Nurofen or ibuprofen. These can cause quite a lot of inflammation in our gut wall, and it can create basically leaky gut and an abnormal immune response. Another drug that we should be aware of is proton pump inhibitors, so PPIs, which are used as a stomach acid blocker, or to lower your stomach acid depending which ones you're taking. They're extremely effective at what they do. They do lower the stomach acid, but this also lowers the digestive enzymes. It decreases the bile flow into your digestive tract, and we need all of these for proper digestive function and for us to be able to absorb our nutrients. If we don't have these, then we're not going to be able to break the food down. We're not going to be able to absorb the nutrients that we need, and this leads in turn to poor immune function, as there's a lack of nutrients, as I mentioned. So if we look at smoking, this is a massive area that causes inflammation. It hugely decreases our beneficial bacteria. It causes massive dysbiosis and in overall poor immune health. And the last area that I wanted to look at when it comes to causes is vitamin D. So vitamin D is needed for a healthy gut and for a healthy immune system, as it regulates our immune system. So if we have low vitamin D, it can increase inflammation, it can cause dysbiosis. So it causes, again, poor gut health, poor immune function. And as it hits it from both ends, as it regulates the gut and the immune system, it kind of causes a double whammy. So it's really important that your vitamin D levels are kind of optimal. And that's especially true for those of us who have autoimmune diseases such as Hashimoto's. Vitamin D plays a crucial role in our immune system in regulating it. So it's not overreacting, it's not underreacting. So having optimal levels is key for kind of autoimmune disease sufferers. So now we've looked at kind of what causes it and how it causes it, we can move on and look at what we can do to improve our gut health and how we can improve our immune health and in turn our Hashimoto symptoms. So if we start with diet again. So one of the first areas that I would recommend is eliminating the sugars, the sweeteners, the white refined carbohydrates and the processed foods from your diet. And that seems quite a lot, but the benefits are massive. For me personally, when I kind of eliminated these from my diet, it made a huge difference to my energy levels, to my mood, to my pain, to my sleep. So it is worth doing. These foods don't contain any nutrients, they're just calories. So it's not providing anything of benefit for our system. One key area that I would look at. If you're looking at a product and it has a list a mile long of ingredients and you don't know what half those ingredients are, you can't pronounce them, you couldn't tell somebody what they were, I would avoid that product. That is personally my opinion of kind of processed foods. They cause a lot of inflammation, and for those of us with autoimmune disease, we want to lower that inflammation. So unfortunately, they're one of the things that have to go. So increasing your fibre intake. So some great sources of fibre are nuts, seeds, vegetables, fruits, beans and pulses, and whole grains. Fibre feeds our good bacteria, so we want a healthy level of fibre in our diet in order to kind of have healthy kind of levels of good bacteria. The wider the variety of foods that you can eat and the wider colour range of foods that you can eat, especially when it comes to your vegetables and your fruits, the healthier your gut will be, because you'll be getting more nutrients. Different coloured fruits and vegetables contain different nutrients. So that is kind of the reasoning behind, I'm sure you've heard people saying eat the rainbow. So brightly coloured foods such as berries and things like pumpkin and what else have we got? The deep green vegetables such as kale and Swiss chard. The bigger the range you can eat, the more beneficial it is to your health. So I would also look at another key area of diet would be to increase your healthy fat consumption. Most of us these days have been kind of want to avoid fats, and that is quite detrimental. Or, as I mentioned before, every cell in our body needs fat for its cell membrane in order for those cell membranes to be able to communicate effectively. Our brain alone is kind of made up of like 60% fat. So if you want to kind of get rid of that brain fog and you kind of want to get rid of the fatigue and the inflammation, you need to be consuming healthy fats in order to do this. And one of the key areas that I would look at is including omega-3 fatty acids. On their own, they are a powerful anti-inflammatory, which is kind of one reason alone to consume them. They have obviously numerous other benefits, but that is kind of one of the key areas. Anything that you can do to lower your inflammation is going to help your Hashimoto's. So sources of omega-3s are oily fish, so fish such as salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines, herring, trout, all fish like that I would be kind of recommending you're eating 2 to 3 times a week. I would avoid eating too many omega-3 fatty acid fish that are predatory, such as tuna and swordfish. They get their omega-3 from eating the smaller fish. So the omega-3 is much more concentrated in the smaller fish, and the predatory fish also have higher levels of mercury, so that's something else we need to be kind of a little bit aware of. Other areas that you can get omega-3 fatty acids from are walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, or sometimes called linseeds, depending where you're from. Other healthy fats that I would include are avocados, olive oil, coconut yogurt, coconut milk, nut oils. And the oils that I would be looking to kind of avoid are your refined oils. So most commonly these will be your sunflower oil, your canola oil, your margarines, your spreads. If it comes in a clear plastic container and the oil itself has no taste or no odour, it's been heavily refined, and this is quite often damaged in that process, and our body struggles to recognise the fats and can actually treat it as kind of a toxin. We don't want our cells made from these fats, we want healthy fats making up our cell membranes. So water intake, I would aim for 2 litres a day, and one way to do this is to carry a flask with you. If you're going out, make sure you to walk your dogs or kind of for the day, make sure you have your flask with you. If you're at your desk in your office, make sure you have a glass and your flask. I always have mine, and I aim for kind of at least 2 of these a day. And you'll be amazed how much you'll drink when it's there in front of you and you just keep sipping it. Other things that you could look at for your fluid levels as well would be green tea is really beneficial. It contains a lot of antioxidants. Herbal teas are great. That kind of all contributes towards your fluid content, and obviously it doesn't contain the caffeine. So what would I be recommending? What I recommend to my clients that they eat, what I eat myself, is a whole foods diet. So good quality meats, fish, eggs, vegetables, fruits, whole grains if you're able to tolerate them, beans and pulses, and raw nuts and seeds. Again, variety is key. The more variety you have, then the more diverse your gut bacteria is going to be. So don't go for the same things, the same foods day after day. Make sure you're mixing it up. Make sure you're throwing different vegetables in there, different fruits, using all the nuts and seeds that you can, kind of throwing them on top of your soups, kind of in your salads, as snacks. Basically, if you can source organic foods, all the better. You won't have the pesticides that are adding to the toxic load in your system. Even if you can just change some of your foods for organic, it will make a big difference. There are much more nutrients available in the organic foods than there are in the normal pesticide sprayed foods, especially when it comes to minerals. The pesticides deplete the minerals in the soil that the plants need to grow, so the plants themselves then don't contain the minerals. Therefore, we're not absorbing the minerals because they're not there. So when you're eating organic foods, they haven't been sprayed with pesticides. Those minerals are there, so you're getting those extra kind of nutrients that you need for your body to function optimally. Okay, on to alcohol. Now, personally, I don't drink because it is a massive trigger for my Hashimoto's. I found out this the hard way, and I really missed it when I cut it out, but the benefits have been massive. Now, I don't kind of suggest that you go and cut alcohol out. That's not something I suggest to my clients at all. A little bit here and there is not a problem whatsoever. What I would say is that during the week, if you limit it to kind of 1 or 2 days, so you're giving your body a good 4 or 5 days without alcohol so that your liver can kind of catch up with the other functions it should be doing rather than just detoxing the alcohol. So it just gives your system that break. And you will notice, if you are able to reduce your alcohol consumption or limit it to kind of certain days or special occasions, that your digestive symptoms will improve drastically. Your liver function will improve, which will in turn improve your sleep, your mood and your energy. Plus your immune system will function much better because it's not having to deal with kind of the extra toxins. So if we move on to sleep and have a look at kind of what we can do to improve our sleep. So routine is massive. It's a key area for sleep. Our body has a circadian rhythm, and cortisol is released in the morning to kind of gear us up, to get us going for the rest of the day, for everything we need to do. And then in the evening, when we should be kind of winding down, our cortisol drops and our melatonin kind of increases, and this is our sleep hormone. This keys us up for kind of getting ready for bed and kind of ready for sleeping. And it is something that's produced in our gut, so obviously gut health massively affects this as well. If you're going to bed at 10 one night and then not till 2 a.m. the next night, and kind of then you're up at 7 and then not up till 11, this circadian rhythm can't adapt quick enough. So you can be kind of needing to get to sleep and unable to sleep, or feeling sleepy when you should be kind of functioning during the day. So keeping a routine is critical for this. And some of you will have seen my latest live that I did with Rosie Whitwell on Instagram, and this was all kind of involving sleep and kind of tips and techniques, and she had some great advice in there. So if you haven't seen it, I would definitely check that out. So one of the things for sleep that I would recommend is that you eat no more than kind of 3 hours before going to bed. So you need to leave that window of at least 3 hours before eating and sleeping. Your digestion kind of needs to process kind of so that you can rest and repair while you're sleeping and detox. I would reduce your screen time in at least the hour before you go to bed. I have a filter on my phone that comes on at 7 p.m. so it blocks the blue light coming through, and I have the same on my laptop, so if I'm having to work late, I'm not getting that blue light disturbing kind of my melatonin levels. TV's not so critical as you're not so close, your face isn't so close to the screen, so you're not kind of absorbing as much of the blue light. But kind of keeping that in mind, that you're not stimulating your brain too much by watching kind of thrillers late at night and getting your brain going. Lavender essential oil can be great for helping you get to sleep if you're struggling to kind of get to sleep or stay asleep. Quite often when I struggled with insomnia, I'd kind of put a couple of drops of essential oil on my pillow, and within 15 to 20 minutes I'd find myself dropping off quite consistently. And if you're waking during the night, you can put a little bit on your pulse points and you'll find that you'll drop back to sleep quite quickly again. Magnesium baths, magnesium salt baths are quite good as part of your routine for bed. For me, I use it as a chance to relax, time for myself. I read my book. I quite often put a little bit of lavender essential oil in there, kind of to help that relaxation process. And what happens when you're having this bath, it raises your body temperature. Now, when we need to sleep, we need our body temperature to drop a little bit in order for us to be able to do this. So when we get out of the bath, we get out of that hot water, our body temperature will naturally drop, and this will kind of help with that kind of effect of sleepiness and kind of keying us in that it's time to kind of go to bed and get some good sleep. One of the other things that I would kind of look at is, and I often recommend for my clients if they're struggling to kind of get to sleep and they're struggling to turn their brains off at night, they're kind of that hamster wheel's going continuously with the thoughts of what you haven't done, what you need to do the next day, and kind of worrying about the things that really aren't that critical, but kind of your brain just doesn't seem to want to let go of. So I recommend either journaling or meditation, which are quite helpful. In order to kind of switch this process off. And again, it switches you from your sympathetic nervous system into your parasympathetic, which enables you to basically rest and kind of get your sleep. So if we move on to stress, it can be quite difficult to remove kind of everyday stresses. Some things we just can't remove from our life, it's impossible. So we have to learn how to deal with those things. And I myself was quite a stressy person. And I can get that way quite easily if I don't kind of keep on top of that. So I've learnt various techniques in order to help me manage this. And here are some of my favourites basically. So EFT, which is a tapping technique. And I'll be giving a live Instagram on this, I think it's the 23rd of November. With Rachel Turner, and she'll be demonstrating how exactly to do tapping and the benefits of it for kind of stress management, for anxiety. It's been used for things like PTSD. It's really beneficial. I find that just kind of 5 minutes of kind of doing the tapping can lower my stress levels quite dramatically. I can notice a huge drop in my stress within that 5 minutes. Other things that I do kind of daily are meditation. I also make sure that I take time for myself, and this is something that most women do not do. We're so busy with our families, with our work, with kind of the endless list of stuff we need to do at home, that it just seems like a luxury that we can't afford to take that time for ourselves. Research has shown that actually taking that time actually makes you more productive. It increases your patience, it improves your mood. It improves your concentration. So it is worth kind of making sure you carve out that time for yourself, whether it be kind of 10 to 15 minutes a day, or whether it be kind of once or twice a week for an hour at a time, that you kind of go and do something just for yourself. Deep breathing exercises can be extremely beneficial, as can visualization, and I've used both. And I have some deep breathing kind of techniques on my IGTV feed if you want to kind of check out those. Now this last area for stress management is critical. They may seem really simple kind of things to do, but they make such a difference. So this is like your eating habits basically. So make sure you're chewing your food. You should be chewing your food 20 to 30 times per mouthful before you're swallowing. The more work you can do through chewing your food, the easier it is for your your digestive tract to basically break down the rest of the food and extract the nutrients that you need. If you're not chewing thoroughly and you're kind of swallowing kind of huge chunks of food, your digestive tract can't break that down efficiently, so it can't get those nutrients that it needs. So the more you can do to help it, the better. So limit your distractions, so your mobile phones, the TV, kind of sit down, take your time, kind of enjoy your meal, kind of concentrate on your food and what you're eating. And again, this kind of last thing here is huge for kind of switching you from your sympathetic over to your parasympathetic, so your digestion can work. Just take 5 or 6 big kind of belly breaths just before you eat your food. And just simply put your hands on your stomach and breathe in really deeply 5 to 6 times. And this, like I said, just basically switches you from your sympathetic to your parasympathetic. So it switches off your kind of stress response and it turns on your digestion so it can function as it should be doing. So, yeah, where was I? Stress. There we are, yeah. And that kind of sums up stress. So if we look at exercise, so regular exercise can help you manage your stress levels. It can lower your inflammation and it can increase your mood and your energy. So it's worth doing. But as I said before, it's really important that you get that right balance, so you're not doing too much, you're not overtaxing yourself. And that's really important for those with Hashimoto's. Energy can be an issue for a lot of us with Hashimoto's, and so can like muscle fatigue. And pushing through kind of those exercises is not beneficial for us. It causes more damage in the long run, damage that your body has to repair, and that takes more energy. So finding the right level of exercise is extremely important. If you're really struggling to exercise, and I was no different, I really couldn't exercise for quite the longest time. You need to start off really slowly, even if it's just a 5-minute walk around the village at like a gentle pace, even if it's just 5 minutes of really gentle yoga. Just start it out slowly and you'll soon find that your energy increases, your mood increases, and that you're able to kind of increase this to 10 minutes, 15 minutes and kind of so forth. One of the things I've loved is getting kind of my exercise kind of back into my life. It has made a massive difference for kind of my mental health as well as my physical health. So I would highly recommend it. But again, don't push yourself too far. Just do what you can do to start with. So drugs, we mentioned this before, and obviously I wouldn't recommend anybody stop taking their medication. I wouldn't recommend kind of that you avoid taking certain drugs if it's critical. If you've been prescribed it and you need those drugs, then you need those drugs. But it's just being aware of kind of why you're taking them. So in the case of PPIs, which was the acid blockers, or the NSAIDs, which are kind of the ibuprofen and the Nurofen. One of the things I always look for with my clients is to look for the cause. What is causing the reflux? What is causing the pain? And quite often, if you can get to the root of what is causing this, you can basically 9 times out of 10 eliminate the need for these drugs at all, basically. So quite often with reflux, we're prescribed the acid blockers. Now the symptoms for low acid are the same as the symptoms for high acid, and most people aren't checked to see which they have. They're given the acid blockers. So if your acid levels are already low and you're given acid blockers, then you're lowering it even further. And this, as we mentioned before, your acid is needed to kind of break your food down. It's needed to key in the release of essential digestive enzymes and bile, which is needed for breaking your fats down. So if your acid is too low, you can't extract the nutrients from the food, you can't absorb those nutrients. So it is well worth checking kind of into what is causing the issues, such as the pain. Is it the inflammation from the food you're eating? Is it inflammation from the stress that you've got in your life? Can you eliminate those foods? Can you kind of find ways of dealing with that stress? And if you can, you will quite often find that those symptoms just kind of disappear. So antibiotics is a little bit different. If you've been prescribed an antibiotic, there's generally a very good reason, and you need to take that antibiotic in order to get rid of the problem that you're having. So what I would suggest if you do take an antibiotic is that for every course of antibiotics you take, you take at least 6 months of probiotics afterwards in order to re-inoculate the bacteria within your gut, to stop the bad bacteria growing and getting a dominance quicker than the good bacteria, and to change those probiotics up. Don't take the same one consistently, because again, that can create a dominance. Even if it's a dominance of good bacteria, we don't want a dominance, we just want them to kind of be nice and balanced. So changing your kind of probiotics up so that you're getting different strains from different brands is really beneficial. So smoking. Now I'm sure most of you know what I'm going to say on this one. Now is the perfect time to quit if you can. If you're smoking and you have an autoimmune disease such as Hashimoto's, you are causing a huge amount of inflammation within your body. And especially with the situation we have at the moment with the global pandemic with COVID, inflammation has been shown to be one area that can cause a more severe kind of reaction with COVID, a more severe kind of case. So again, reducing that inflammation improves your chances of kind of dealing with COVID much better if you do get it. So if you can stop smoking, I really would advise it. It will benefit your immune health kind of massively. And then onto the last area, onto vitamin D. Now it's impossible to get enough through your diet. You couldn't eat enough vitamin D containing foods in order to kind of get the levels that we need for optimal kind of vitamin D kind of function. We have a lack of it from the sun during the winter months, so from October through to March, the sun isn't high enough or powerful enough to be creating the amounts of vitamin D that we need. So as a result, most of us during the winter are deficient in vitamin D. And this is quite well known. Kind of most governments kind of now are acknowledging this and kind of addressing that most people should be taking a vitamin D supplement during the winter months. This increases for those of us with autoimmune disease. As I mentioned before, vitamin D regulates your immune system. And it has been shown that those people with lower vitamin D levels have kind of more severe cases of autoimmune diseases. So making sure your vitamin D levels are optimal is really quite crucial. So during the winter, I would definitely recommend supplementing. It is a fat-soluble vitamin, so you do need to get your levels checked regularly. Now, if your doctor isn't kind of willing to do this, you can get home test kits, and they're not too expensive. I think they start about £30 or $30 kind. So it's not extortionate, and you don't need to be checking them kind of like weekly or monthly, like every kind of 3 months or 3 to 6 months. Once you've kind of got to a level where you know your vitamin D level is stable, is sufficient. So what are optimal levels? So for most people, you would be looking for 100 to 150 nanomoles per litre, or 40 to 60 nanograms per milliliter, depending kind of what units your country or your laboratory measures the vitamin D in. For those of us with autoimmune disease, I would say that I would aim for the top end of that. So for optimal levels with an autoimmune disease such as Hashimoto's, I would recommend 150 nanomoles per litre to 200 nanomoles per litre, or 60 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. This is what I aim for personally. I check my results regularly. So most people can start on a dose of 2,000 to 4,000 international units, and that would be sufficient. With autoimmune diseases and other illnesses, quite often you need more. I need quite a lot more than that to maintain my levels, but like I said, I get them checked, so I know that I'm not taking too much. So the research has come in on the severity of COVID cases in relation to vitamin D levels, and the lower your vitamin D levels, the more likely you are to experience severe COVID cases. So the higher your vitamin D levels, the more likely you are to have a mild kind of COVID experience if you do get it. So that's, again, is another reason for keeping your vitamin D optimal at the moment. Now, if you're taking a vitamin D supplement, I would always recommend taking it with magnesium. They're cofactors, so they work together. So if one of them is low, the other can't function efficiently, and vice versa. So magnesium, again, is something that most of us don't get enough through our diet. So supplementing or the magnesium salt baths, or both, I do both, are great ways of kind of making sure your levels are good so that your vitamin D can function. Okay, that kind of concludes my masterclass on gut health and immunity. And let me just have a scroll through and see if we had any questions. There we are. Brandy Danielle asked me, is diary an inflammatory? It can be. It's very individual. What may be inflammatory for me can be absolutely fine for you, for example. It depends on kind of what your body can tolerate and what it can't tolerate. This is one of the reasons I always recommend doing a food, mood and symptom diary with my clients, so I can then pick out which foods are likely contributing towards their symptoms. So it's a bit of a convoluted answer, sorry about that, Brandy. It can be, depending on the person. Have we got any more questions? If you've got any more questions, just pop them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer them. And while I'm just kind of waiting to see if there's any more questions, I'd kind of just like to kind of take this chance to tell you a little bit more about my Hashimoto's Healing 1-to-1 12-week programme. If you go over to my website, which is helenmaliburn.com, that you will see the whole package there and kind of what it includes, what I address. So I start with looking at food diaries and taking a full health history, and then I work with you over 12 weeks with one-to-one sessions, and we basically pinpoint the foods and the lifestyle factors that are contributing towards your symptoms. And we can then address those and basically reduce and eliminate those symptoms one by one and get you back to kind of feeling like yourself, feeling full of energy and happy and kind of raring to go. Now I just wanted to kind of mention I have an exciting new programme coming up. I won't give you too many details, it's still in the pipeline, but you'll be hearing a lot more about it in the next few weeks. It's going to be a beta program. I'm wanting to take my coaching online onto a group platform, and so I'm looking for 5 initial kind of Hashimoto sufferers to be part of that journey. But again, you'll find out more over the next few weeks as I kind of release things within the group and on my Instagram page. I just wanted to thank you all for listening and kind of taking the time. And I hope that it's been beneficial for you all and that you've got something out of it. If you do think of any questions afterwards, feel free to drop me a message or kind of pop it in the Tuesday's questions or on my Instagram feed. I'm more than happy to answer questions. So yeah, I look forward to kind of speaking to you all a little bit more. Enjoy the rest of your day, whether that's kind of morning or evening, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Bye.